Hello everybody, this is ShadowSlayerX, and welcome to the Epilogue of Arkham Season 1. We spanned from a solo campaign with Roland from Night of the Zealot, and we completed the Dunwich Legacy, and we had the same character make it through from the beginning of Season 1 to the end of Season 2. But, as we're gonna do a quick overview, Roland didn't make it through the end. So let's look at that. Roland had 55 experience by the time he was done. He was driven insane after the resolutions of Lost in Time and Space. As most final scenarios, a lot of trauma is dished out. And dutifully right, you've gone through some crazy stuff, you've seen some crazy stuff, and I know the scenarios kind of prepare you for seeing more and more and more crazy things, but in the end they're all human. There's not a single investigator that is like part Night Gaunt, or you know what I mean? Nothing crazy like that. They're all people. So Roland having to deal with Irmadoth and then going into the realm of Yogg-Sothoth as he's approaching, it broke him. It drove him insane. He had Lita Chandler, Henry Armitage, and Francis Morgan. So Lita doesn't always survive Night of the Zealot. Spoilers to newer people who've just watched this for the first time. There is an option to sacrifice Lita to Irmadoth. I think that came up, or at least the text came up, but we weren't going to do that. Even though, way back then, I actually improperly killed him, as one of the comments pointed out, and I had thought about just going back and trying to reset it up to do that one extra turn. I think we still would have been able to do it personally, but You can't just go back and redo some things, but hopefully we will change a lot of things for Season 2. Nothing's perfect, but what I have planned for Season 2 I think makes more sense and is a lot easier. Videos will still come out, I don't know, roughly one a week, usually, hopefully, or every 2 weeks, but I might take a small break after this, maybe do something else in the meantime. But yeah, so Roland played a total of 11 scenarios before losing all 5 of his mental capacities there. And 5 is pretty low. I think that's as low as you can get on a stat. I kind of was messing around with a custom investigator with 4. And then his ability is about how he won't lose all 4 of it in one go, but that's for another time. Maybe I'll do a video on that. Maybe I'll do that in between if people are interested. Carolyn, it was a hard choice as to who was going to be the second investigator. I don't know how I made it seem on the videos, but Carolyn was a very good choice, I believe, because she's known as the sanity healer. That's her ability, that's what she does. And I feel like I built her a little too much in that way, and kind of disregarded any way for her to handle herself. Just because she can't put weapons in her deck that are not level 0 doesn't mean she can't have weapons. And I think that was part of my downfall there. There are ways that we could have had Carolyn easily be able to defend herself instead of borrowing upgraded weapons from Roland, which I gotta admit, it was a kind of cool thing. I think I did it once where she was holding the upgraded Tommy gun and it felt great, but yeah, so she was unlucky enough to randomly pull oh shoot, I can't remember the name of the card. The one that eventually ends up being the Bell Tolls. I really can't remember offhand, but it's fine. So but we got unlucky. I've had this weakness before in my first playthrough of the Dunwich Legacy, and I think in the last scenario I had the belt holes. And so it didn't really matter to me if I lived or died in Lost in Time and Space. I didn't. But in that scenario, I got wormholed away from the exit. I had to make my way back, which was kind of exciting because everyone else had gone through the tear. And Yogg-Sothoth was coming. That was a very interesting one. But yeah, Carolyn was unlucky enough to draw it every scenario, I believe. Because if she only made it through 1 through 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so that means she drew the first game to get tick 1, drew the second game to get the other card in her deck, third game to get tick 1, fourth game to get tick 2. Okay, no, she didn't draw it every one, but almost. Which is quite unlucky, but I think we went through most of our decks most of the games, and I believe Dunwich does that to you. There's a lot of discarding. It's because Beyond the Veil is a thing, and a good chunk of the treachery cards try to do that. And then that moves on to Calvin. It was tough trying to choose somebody who was going to stick around for 2 scenarios and potentially die. If he didn't make it through 7, I believe the world comes to an end if you fail 7. Yeah. And 8, I think, is also similar, where if you don't pass it, the world comes to an end. But there are some ways you can close it and still lose that investigator. So it's very tough. It's very tough to pick an investigator who has 2 chances to never be seen again for the rest of this whole playthrough, right? Because the way I'm doing it is Roland and Carolyn are not going to be choices for any future character and scenario. For better or for worse. And that's going to play into Season 2, which we'll talk about afterwards. So Calvin earned 10 experience, which is really great for 2 scenarios. And he has 3 physical trauma and 2 mental trauma. And as we all know, that all that does is buff him. It just makes him a little bit stronger. But as he gets more and more trauma, I'm starting to think if healing he might need Healy cards. Now I know I added Peter Sylvester, and I've already picked out some of his other cards, but so I have a little bit of Healy in there. But we gotta be careful with Calvin, right? It was very easy in these 2 scenarios to have an enemy on you and literally have a turn of build up while it's whacking at you, and then next turn you just destroy it. Calvin's going to definitely be needing weapons, which he won't be starting out with next game. Like, he'll still have his meat cleavers, but that's going to be something we're going to have to build to. He needs something different. Rather, I get an ornate bow, or if we go for time-worn brands, or something. People help me out. I think there's a new card where it's like brute force. Like, that sounds awesome. So we're going to figure things out with Calvin, because he's going to be our generalist, but yeah, I want him to be just good at everything, which I think Calvin can do. We should also think about some preventative, like things that can block incoming damage as well, which kind of counts as healing if you think about it, right? Like, if you block 2 damage, you kind of healed 2 damage, sort of. But I digress. So let's go on to the written part. So this is a blurb from Calvin's point of view. Once again, I am no great writer, but I do hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll try to do the best delivery I can. And here we go. Calvin Wright, August 18th. I don't know where to begin. Will anyone ever believe me if I tell them? I was just trying to escape, start fresh somewhere new. I was warned the bad things would happen if I left Arkham. But who believes a back alley fortune teller anyways? I guess I did, since I paid him. I didn't have too much to offer the fortune peddler, except for a gold pocket watch I had just found. He said the trinket was worth more than I knew, but to me it held no value besides whatever I could sell it for. He had a hellish grin and the devil in his eyes, but his words rang true the minute he spoke them. The longer you stay out of Arkham, danger will befall you and all those around you. Have you ever seen a train being lifted into the sky, just torn from the tracks? People were screaming for their lives as they soared into a literal tear in reality high in the clouds. But there were a few folks who were trying to help everyone, unfettered by the peril around us. I was just a helpless passenger until the detective offered his hand to me. I was the only one to listen. A train full of people, and I was the only one who thought these strangers had a plan to survive. I was going to survive. I couldn't let the fortune teller be right. I controlled my fate, no one else. I only knew Carolyn for a few hours before the monsters attacked. Heck, this is her journal. It would have been wasted on the Dunwich folks. She patched me up rather good. She said she wasn't your average doctor, but had enough training to give me some first aid. If it wasn't for her care, I don't know if I would have been any help to Roland after she died. There was something unnatural about her death. We all saw the giant monstrosities coming at us. She was a fierce and driven woman, but when they were upon us, she just fell over. And not like someone who's been out in the hot sun all day or from hearing awful news, but as if her time in this world had run out and her spirit just left her body. The monster had no trouble devouring her, taking a chunk of the landscape with it. Roland was pretty broken up about it. He wouldn't say it, but you could see the pain in his eyes. There was no time to grieve. We had to get to Sentinel Hill and stop the crazed yokels from opening another tear into reality. If not us, then who? Lita pushed the only weapon she could find from the destroyed farmhouse, a meat cleaver, and then a barely working flashlight from her coat pocket. The professor stayed at the village to calm the remaining citizens as Roland, Lita, and myself went up that perverse and twisted hill. I have no idea where the gangsters came from, but they knew Roland and I trusted him, especially when he said they were on our side. But how does one prepare for the worst? How does one prepare themselves for the impossible? Roland jumped through the tear at the peak of the hill without hesitation. Was he being brave or committing suicide? So many of those gangsters fell to the crazed cultists and their twisted creatures. Lita yelled at me to jump through as another abomination tore itself from a corpse near the tree line. She promised she would protect the tear from this side and join us when it was clear. I jumped through. Time was sound. Sound became something to stand on, and color tasted strange. Something shifted in this tear in reality and filled us with dread. We couldn't see or hear anything, but there was a foreboding sense of death coming. It felt like it was coming from all directions, and none at the same time. We were at the edge of a universe with no idea what to do. Before we could make a plan, the literal ground we were standing on split in two and moved in diagonal directions. I ended up by some crystalline cliffs, which took ages to climb. Or did it take minutes? I cut out my hands something fierce during the climb, but at the top were hundreds of staircases going sideways and upside down. I was utterly lost. I called out to what I thought was Roland in the distance, and he disappeared. After hours of navigating these odd staircases, I felt I had found a path. Each flight I climbed, I could feel a new presence whispering into my head. I couldn't understand what it or they were saying, but it didn't feel evil? It wanted the rift closed. It didn't care if we made it through or not. Roland eventually made his way to the staircase maze. He was covered in blood and guts, and it was my turn to offer him the helping hand. He almost collapsed into my arms, babbling nonsense. Lita's voice could be heard, and we headed toward the sound in the inky void. Suddenly a tear appeared, or had it been there all along? I carried Roland to the tear, which presumably led back to the real world, and I pushed him through. Lita's voice, much clearer now. The strange voice grew very loud in my head, and I fell to my knees. I don't remember what I was saying, and I don't remember stepping through the tear. According to Lita, I rocketed out of the portal and landed in a tree. I couldn't hear the voice in my head anymore, but it had left an imprint, or an emptiness. Roland was propped on a log, unconscious. Lita said she had to knock him out because he thought she was an eldritch demon and tried to shoot her. Her plan was to take him back to St. Mary's Hospital in Arkham. I felt bad for Roland, but he would be better suited for the asylum if he couldn't handle what he had dealt with. Lita appeared to be a rock, untouched by the surface from this whole ordeal, but she had to be torn up inside when she looked at Roland. Her eyes just couldn't lie. I eventually decided to return to Arkham, for better or for worse. My heart nearly stopped when I thought I saw the fortune teller sitting on a bench down a dark alley outside the train station. I ran over to give him a piece of my mind, when the crowd passed before me, blocking him from my view for just a few moments. When I got to the bench, there was no one there. A corner of a poster on the brick wall came loose and gently brushed my face. I pulled it off and looked at it. There was a gorgeous woman in the center. It was an advertisement of a play that had just arrived in Arkham. I folded the poster and wedged it in the spokes of the bench, and noticed one golden ticket sitting there. It read, "Admit 1, the King in Yellow." There we go. So, that leads us to Season 2, The Path to Carcosa. So, what you're about to see here is not set in stone, the ideas and all that goodness, but I think I got the characters. So, who's going to be part of Season 2? I felt bad that in Season 1, I didn't get to actually pull a Dunwich investigator in, and I felt like I should have Dunwich investigators for the Dunwich, and I was very close to bringing in Ashcan Pete instead of Calvin, but I decided on Calvin because I felt like he was someone who could survive from one to the next and be fine. So, what we're going to do for Season 2 is we're going to bring in 2 Path to Carcosa investigators. Now, it should be noted that Path to Carcosa came with 6 investigators. See if I can name them all. It came with Mark, Lola, Safina, came with... oh, who was the mystic? Who did I... Akachi. And who was the seeker? Min. Right? Am I still missing someone? Oh, the survivor was Yorick. So there was a lot of good choices here. But then I went with Mark because Mark is very hard to put anywhere. Or on the reverse, he might be easy to put everywhere because his whole background is World War II. So I felt like he might be on his last... like, he is back from the war. He kind of doesn't know what to do since he's lost Sophie. And he decides to see a play. Lola's easy. Lola's in the play. For those who have never played Lola in the first scenario to Path to Carcosa, she starts in a different location. I think she begins on stage or backstage or something like that. So it's kind of... we'll play into that a little bit. Now, what I'm thinking here is, depending on if and when investigators die, depending on where they are, it will matter thematically who replaces them, right? So, I believe there's at least one spot in Path where you can lose everybody. From then, I might just go ahead and pick the rest. Pick 3 more Carcosa investigators. I might grab some Dunwich investigators because we missed out on them. But if I can thematically fit somebody in, I will. Like, for instance, if we had never taken Carolyn, then I could easily put her in after a certain scenario here. I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't, but I think people understand which one I'm talking about. Because she is a psychiatrist, and she could have seen or heard all the things happening and then be a part of it for the next go. So Calvin is going to be our generalist, and so I'm going to try to make him be the ultimate do-everything guy, handyman. Get clues, fight monsters. So, right, and like evade stuff. Like, he'll be able to do everything, hopefully. Lola, I'm not sure what to do. So up there I've written Seeker and Mystic and Rogue, because I thought Mark will be our death machine. Like, he will be our super soldier, our Captain America, Captain Arkham. So if we can stick Mark with Lola as much as possible to protect her, and then we eventually get Calvin to a place where he can hold his own, then I think it'll be an interesting trio. I've never played Arkham with 3. As weird as that sounds, I've only ever played solo, duo, and quad. So 1, 2, and 4 players. I've never done 3. And I want Season 2 to be a 3-player scenario. Like a season. The whole season will be 3 players. Never more, never less. So we'll see how that goes. Now, a couple notes I just wrote down for production side. Music. Music is something I had been fiddling with in the past few videos. So I would go to YouTube's free music and take some stuff from there. I'm starting to feel like I don't think my Arkham videos will ever get thousands or hundreds of thousands of views. So if there's a way I can tweak a longer soundtrack, I would. Because I thought I had faded, at least in my last video, I thought I had faded the music. I put it at volume 1 out of 100, yet it was still loud enough to be heard. So I think we're going to save music just for reading the scenarios, agendas, and act text. If I can fit in any other little musical cues, I will, like maybe sound effects or something, but we'll keep it to that if we can. Let's see. Point 2. Will not be beholden to finishing a scenario per video, right? And instead be kept to around 30-40 minutes, but will upload the whole scenario at the same time, no matter how many videos it is. This stems from a few things. Some of my videos are an hour, some are an hour and a half, and sometimes it's easier just to watch it in chunks. Now, people hate when you get part 1 and then part 2 doesn't come for a week. That way I could save up a backlog, so feel free to let me know if you'd rather have a backlog up. But what I was thinking was I'd rather just kind of Netflix it, and if there's 3 parts to an episode, I'll drop all 3 at once. But who knows how much longer this will take. But as a guy who works full-time overnights and has a 2-year-old child and married, I'm surprised I can even get these videos out. So maybe dropping all 3 at once might be best, because for now that's what I'm going to do. If people have ideas or agree with it, just put in the comments. Alright, point 3. I will be saving at the beginning of each turn, and pausing after each turn to verify all rules are properly followed. I feel mistakes will still be made, but this should hopefully minimize them greatly. And I might create a fun splash screen in Paint, because that's how I do things, for the turn round ends. This was tough for me. I wanted to have every video be completely finished in one go. No cuts, no whatever. You see everything. And it's not because I think people think I'm cheating, it's just proof that you did it all in one go, and you just crossed your fingers, you followed all the rules. I'm never intentionally trying to break a rule. So, just so you know that. whether you believe it or not, that's how I feel. And I hope I evoke that. Point 4. I'll be writing a short story blurb at the beginning of each episode as a recap and thematically tie events together. The question is, do you prefer the first-person journal-style point-of-view stories, or would you prefer a narration of what had happened? This will eliminate the interludes except between campaigns. So, right, so my question there. The journal, I think, between Night and the Zealot and Dunwich, I did a narration / POV mix. Carolyn was a complete POV, and I thought it was easy for Calvin to pick up the belongings of Carolyn and Roland, basically, and be able to continue on after what he read. So, I know everyone has their own point of view on this, and I could put up a poll if people would like, but I don't think enough people watch so that if you just comment on it, I can just add them up. Point 5, episode breakdown. So I think each episode will be broken down into doing an introduction, a mechanic recap of what happened last time. So like who got trauma, who got a new card, things like that. The story narration, which I would try to tie in more of what exactly happened in the episodes. Like if Calvin, or if say Mark got a physical trauma because he fought this monster, like I'll try to work that in to the story, whether it's POV or narration. I feel like narration might be easier for these, but I'm curious what people say about POV versus narration. Then we would do the reading of the scenario agenda act, play the scenario, read the resolution, deck upgrading ideas, like talking about it, and then putting questions to you guys at the end, and that would be it. And then the point at the end here, I was iffy about even putting on, but I need a new microphone, and I was debating if I should get like a donation or Patreon thing up and running. I think I have one in my description, but I haven't updated that since I used to do Hearthstone like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't know. So, yeah. More, okay, I think my better question with this would be, what are good microphones? What do people have? Do you guys have headsets, or do you have a microphone and headphones? Because currently I'm just using a headset. Hold on, what am I got? I have a Turtle Beach something, but it clearly picks up some really ambient sounds. Like I wish it would just do my voice. It does have a boom, like as the styrofoam on it, so my P's and pss hopefully aren't too bad. I'm not gonna whistle. That's the other thing I think that triggers those. But yeah, a new microphone. So maybe not so much asking you guys to donate, but more so what is a good microphone to get, and then I'll eventually save up for it. This is just here because honestly, I notice when people ask for donations, it's like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million. But if you throw it out there, maybe that one person will. So I'm not saying you are that one person, but it's always appreciated. I've been donated to before from YouTube, and I've been donated to when I used to stream on Twitch. It's a great feeling, and I'm very thankful and appreciative, and I wish I was bigger because I could do something in return for everybody. But yeah, it is. I do it for fun, not for money. So yeah, I'd love to do this for a living, but I don't think I could get a Kickstarter to fund a year's salary. That'd be amazing. Can you imagine? Anyway, so yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you think so there's a better Carcosa team to add in here. I really want Lola though, so I feel like if you're going to add someone different, it would have to be Mark. So if you think someone's better than Mark for this Calvin Lola trio, let me know. I think Mark's a good fit though. I got to see someone play through with Mark on a campaign, and we made it all the way through the end. His mark was like lightning gun, he had a supercharged lightning gun with like custom ammo, extra ammo. I think he even had the telescopic sight and reliable. Like all the stuff would go back to his hand. Like, it was insane. And he had a bunch of other things, like in case there were things that wiped out assets and whatnot. He had other little things here and there to take the hits, but yeah, it was cool. And I feel like in the Dream Eaters with a bunch of Tommy stuff that's coming out, I feel like Tommy's things work with Mark a little bit, because Tommy likes to put damage on things, right? Well, so does Mark, because it draws him cards. So I don't know if like the new Tetsu card, like, I'm gonna spend some time building these two decks, so you might not see a Arkham video for a little while. I have a couple ideas of what to put up in the meantime, like some other board gamey kind of stuff, because I'm into other board games as well, and I don't know if with a couple I'm thinking about will translate well. One of my favorite games that I've never actually been able to finish but got far is Legacy of Dragonhold, and I have a few ideas of how to get that on screen, but we'll see. We'll see. Like, just looking around in my room right now, I have Eldritch Horror, Gloomhaven, a game called Dead Men Tell No Tales. I don't think I could get that on screen. Maybe Tabletop has it, I don't know. Betrayal Legacy, wouldn't be able to play that, unfortunately. Fog of Love. I've got all sorts of games, and that's just what I can see on my left. If I could turn around, there's a ton behind me, and a bunch downstairs. I was also thinking Marvel Champions. That's one game I own. I have Marvel Champions, and it's lots of fun. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really excited to hear what you guys think, and I know this video depends on people commenting. So, it's like, I'm gonna be on, like biting my nails waiting for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks until like one person comments, or preferably 10, 20 comments, who knows. Alright. Oh, you know what I should add right here, right now? Ready for this? Oops. Oh my god, what am I doing? Whatever. Learn to end a video normally. Okay. But what I want to say to that is, I love you guys, and thank you for watching. And at the end of a season, I want to do some more shoutouts. A lot of people I watch on YouTube. I watch The Whisper in Darkness, Big Stupid Grin, Out of Ammo, Out of Time, Arkham Chronicle, Optimal Play, I think is one. Oh, what is it? There's like the board game dudes or whatever. Shoot. I should have planned this out and had it written out. But there's a lot of good places to watch Arkham, and a lot of different takes and styles. And I don't think anyone's done my style, where you go from scenario to scenario, but I've only done it once, and I did it from the easiest scenario to a long scenario, so... And I feel like Season 2 is an interesting place as well, because even though Calvin has come from the tail end of a scenario, he's really going to be going through a whole scenario, and hopefully a second scenario. Spoilers, he won't make it far in the Forgotten Age. But I swear to God, though, if Calvin makes it to the Forgotten Age, I will try so flipping hard to keep him alive and not grab the trauma that just gets tossed around like candy on Halloween. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. I've babbled on for, 35 minutes? Almost? Yeah. Alright. Well, from me, Shadow, to you guys, thank you for watching. I love you all, and keep playing Arkham. Bye.